Ladies and gents, welcome to BRB. No, VRB. Getting confused already. We take a little bit of time off, Tim, and suddenly I forget letters and how they work. So I'm Kev, and I'm joined once again by Tim.
Good evening, Mr. Kev. VR is dead once again, but we are alive once more.
And we will bring it back to life if it makes us...
If it kills us.
Yes. I was going to say unalived then because I got lost halfway through my sentence. Evidently, my vocabulary is not kicking in quite as well as it should do tonight.
Okay.
But that's fine. We have lots of things to talk about that will hopefully get my muscles a-jiggling. Vocal muscles, I should say.
I'm glad you clarified. That's good.
It's always important, I find. Right, so... VRB episode 10. What have we got on the agenda today? Let's have a look. We've been playing some games.
Oh, yeah.
As per usual. Now, it has been, 4 weeks since our last episode?
Yeah, we were going to record last week, but then we delayed by a week. So I'm not sure it's 3 or 4, but it's been more weeks than we planned, basically.
It was, yes. That's because, again, life happens. And this is very much not at the top of our stacks of priorities, respectively. Yes, as Jeff Goldblum once put it. It does. So, let's get kicking off. I'm going to say, let's do this. You've got 3 games to talk about, and I've got 2. Let's do a Tim Kev, Tim Kev, Tim
Ooh, bit
sandwich.
Of ping pong.
The Big Mac of VR. Discussions.
You can be the meat, I'll be the bread.
Absolutely.
Right,
Give me some ketchup.
Yeah, for the first bit of bread in our Big Mac, I'm going to go with Big Shots, as that's the most current game I've been playing pretty much. Or actually, arguably not actually, but Big Shots I've been playing on PSVR 2. It's also available on Quest. It is out now, and it's priced at £19.99. It's a cross-platform, which is why I'm going to encourage you to play, Kev, so I have someone to play with as well. But it is a cross-platform mech arena shooter roguelite. With a kind of Borderlands 2-esque cell shading kind of graphical style. That style looks really good in the headset. It gives you some really good feedback in terms of like little kind of skull icons that kind of pop out of the enemies as they're doing. You're mainly kind of battling bugs and various different forms of bugs. It kind of drops you into a random part of a slightly randomized arena. I think it might be just different parts of it, but they can't necessarily get to like the same part in you can't venture around the level to all the bits that you can get to in different bits of it, basically, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
But I think it's as I said, randomized in terms of like you might be dropped into one level or the other, but the levels are and you might be in a different location in that level that you're randomly dropped in to start with, but the levels are largely the same from sort of one run to the next, apart from there is some differences between the levels that you'll be in. But then you're generally going through the same sort of run. So it'll be a similar kind of like, these are all the kind of crawly bugs that you can kind of shoot from afar or can come up to you and kind of only attack you via melee, and you can kind of deal with them. And then at a certain stage, you'll start encountering the bugs that can shoot you from distance. And then you'll get to like various other different enemy types as you get later in the level. You also get to a certain point, I think it's about 6 levels, half a dozen or so levels in, you get to a boss character. And it seems from the kind of layout of the map, and I haven't got this far into the game, but it seems like there's 3 different bosses. I've only seen the first one of them and gone a bit further past the first boss so far. But how far that you get kind of is dependent on some of the upgrades and stuff that you get. Because at the end of every wave of enemies, you get a different selection of upgrades. And initially, at least, you start with a flat cannon and a flamethrower. Now, you can swap out those weapons at any time, so you could have 2 flamethrowers on the go, you could have 2 flat cannons on the go, or any the combination thereof, sort of thing. But then the upgrades will apply to one particular weapon. So if you keep on getting upgrades to the flat cannon, it might be worth sticking with the flat cannon. Whereas if you keep on getting upgrades for the flamethrower, it's fine, but it only works at a certain distance. So I tend to kind of upgrade my flat cannon over and above my flamethrower mostly. And that's where I've had my wider degree of success so far. It does have a little bit of a learning curve when you're first getting into it because the controls are a bit different. The kind of setup is that like you've got like physical things that you're controlling and grabbing within the cockpit of the mech. So you've got to fire each gun independently. You've got like a kind of stick and yoke thing that you grab from above you and that are then kind of cantilevered that, you know, kind of moves around the arms as you move it. But then to actually rotate the mech, you need to hold down a button and rotate. And you can go with different methods. And I did try a couple of the other methods, but it's a bit weird to get used to at first. But I think actually the primary method where you hold down the button and then swivel is actually the best method. I don't know if that's just the way they've tailored it in the game, but it takes a bit of getting used to because it's unusual. But when you get used to it, that seemed to be the best method. So I've stuck with that overall, even though I've tried the other methods and not got on with them as well. But yeah, and then there's also other things that you have to physically do, like to actually jump, you need to let go of one of your gun arms and then pull a kind of lever that's between, well, I don't know what's the right word. It's not really a lever. It's a kind of thing that you pull upwards, but it's kind of a big handle that you just literally pull up and that will make your whole mech jump upwards. And then
like,
you
like an ejection thing on an aircraft.
Yeah, that type of thing. But it's got a physicality to it, which I kind of like. It actually makes it really tough because it means you've got to drop one of your weapon hands and then pull that and then kind of boost forward as well, like to try and, you know, actually get up and over something sort of thing. But then also like your ultimate type thing, which is your kind of big attack things. And the first one you get of those is just upgrades whatever weapon you're firing. But basically it's a canister that physically falls down and you need to again detach, like, you know, take your hand off one of the arms, physically pick it up, put it into a little slot in front of you and then press a button to kick it off. So I'll often like prep it before I get into a round and then just hit it while I'm in that round because that's a bit quicker to do kind of thing. But again, like that adds to the learning curve a little bit to start with because you're trying to get used to all these different enemies and get used to everything you're doing and get used to the physicality of what you're doing in the thing. Like jumping is quite difficult at first, basically, and stuff like that. But when you get used to it and you get a bit deeper into the game and unlock some of the upgrades, especially makes a bit of a difference. It starts becoming a bit more second nature. That's the only thing is that because it's got that learning curve and you really need to learn all those kind of different things to start with, it can be a bit unforgiving to start with before you've unlocked any upgrades because it's just really hard. Also, like you need to be picking up currency to unlock those upgrades. And to start with, it wasn't immediately obvious to me, like because you kill an enemy, and if you kill them on the other side of the map, you won't necessarily get the rewards for doing that because you need to be in quite close proximity to actually physically pick up the stuff that comes out of them. And yeah, I wasn't entirely aware of that to start with. Also, there's drop pods that get dropped in various different points of the level, and that's where you really need the jump sometimes to be able to get up to them if they're on a high platform that you can't access otherwise. And that can be quite tricky to do in the time period because the bugs will start attacking the drop pod, and if you don't get to it quick enough, they will kill it. And the drop pods are where you get a much greater reward, especially in terms of finances. The amount of bugs you kill determines how quickly you get the ultimates and how quickly they come out. And then there's just a kind of the other thing you collect is like experience points, basically. I can't remember exactly what they call it, but that's essentially what it is. And that does your unlocks. And I found that I was unlocking things a lot faster than I was getting the money to be able to buy those things, which was a bit of a thing. But like, for instance, like a lot of those upgrades cost like somewhere between like 200 and 700. And I was getting through like a round, getting through multiple rounds and only getting like 25 coins kind of thing. I was like, oh, this is going to take me a while. And then all of a sudden I just got on one run where I hit a couple of drop pods where I was picking up a bit more as I went. And I got like 1,220 and could afford multiple upgrades and, really be able to sort things out. And as soon as you've got to the point where you've unlocked, because you can fit like 6 upgrades, then as soon as you get to that point, it gets a little bit easier and you can get a bit deeper every time. And so you tend to get a bit more money. And one of the upgrades I've bought actually gives me more rewards every time I pick something up. So that kind of helps in that regard as well. And it kind of snowballs to the point where it becomes a lot easier. You've got used to it a bit more and the whole game becomes a bit more accessible. But overall, I've really enjoyed my time with it. There are some things which are slightly feel a bit counterintuitive in terms of the controls at first, but as I said, you can get over that and get used to them. I had one thing where I got stuck in part of the geometry of the level and had to reset, which was a bit annoying. But because all the runs are quite quick and you're going back and forth and like it's quite quick to get in and out of. And yeah, I haven't had too many problems. I've had more fun than problems, basically, is the overall thing there. And the other thing it does nicely is you've got like a little garage thing that you're in on your menus and where you do all your upgrading and all that type of stuff. And it's got the mech in front of you, so you can see what's going on and what changes you're making to that mech in front of you. You then got different weapons you can unlock as you get in, and a load of different customization options and cosmetic items that you can buy. And a lot of those are really silly, like paper bags and just like silly little things you stick on your head and silly little charms you have dangling off your arms and stuff. Like little cuddly versions of the bugs that you're fighting and stuff like that, and dice and all that type of stuff as well. So yeah, like overall, it graphically it looks really impressive. Gameplay is pretty fun. I suspect it'll be a lot more fun in multiplayer, especially as one of the problems I had is that enemies tend to sneak up behind you, and there is a radar which can circumnavigate that bit. But sometimes you look at the radar, oh, there's 3 bugs behind me. Oh, they've been beating me up for a while. Oh, I didn't realize. And your peripheral vision's kind of blocked out by some of the stuff, and I don't entirely know why they've done that. I guess to keep you kind of focused on what's going on. But I wish they kind of, there was a bit more to the peripheral vision. But I think that would be offset by being in multiplayer because you could be like, oh yeah, there's bugs behind you, let me shoot them for you type of thing. And I think that's where the multiplayer would be quite helpful as well. And, this type of game's just more enjoyable in multiplayer as well, I think.
The peripheral vision thing will probably help with people who get motion sick as well.
Yes, yeah.
I would guess.
But I think there was vignette things that I've turned off as well because I always turn those off because I hate them. But
I mean, mech games, you're in a cockpit, right? In this mech? Yeah, so if you can visualize your cockpit as part of the view, then that typically helps. Even with the do you remember when the first Oculus was being shown at games fairs, and I think we saw it at Eurogamer Expo, if memory serves, there was was it Hawken? Had a VR demo?
Right,
one of the big
possibly.
mech games at the time did. And while every other VR game made a lot of people like motion sick, which with that early tech was very, very common, that game didn't, at least not as much. And it's because you get that fixed like cockpit and then you can, move. It looks like you're moving the cockpit around. That helps a lot with peripheral
I do think that helps
sickness.
a lot. And this helps that, it's a game that's, I've played the whole game without any problems, sat down, and it's been, comfortable and good. And like you say, like any game where you're sat down in a seat, a cockpit or anything like that. EVR was the first game I tried in VR on the old Oculus DK2. And that didn't make me motion sick. And considering you're like, flying through loops and doing barrel rolls and stuff in that.
Yeah, well, you and I are both relatively resistant to it anyway.
Yes.
Motion sickness, to be fair.
Kind of adds to our joy of that. But yes, it's £20, and I think like it doesn't feel like the longest game in the world, and they've kind of padded that out a bit because of the roguelike element to it. And it does feel a little bit repetitive. That's my only other slight problem with it. Because you're going through the same levels again and again, and they are literally like, this is the wave of this level, and of this enemy, and then there's the next wave that's going to be that, and you can predict exactly, you know exactly what wave is coming up next. But I really like it. I think it plays well. I would also like you to pick it up, Kev, so that we can play multiplayer, because that would be fun.
I should look into it. Where are we on a score out of 5?
I think it falls just short of 5. It's pretty close.
Wow.
And it could actually, like, if the end game and getting through the next bosses and stuff adds to that like replay value, and the enemy types keep changing, I think it could push for a 5. At the moment, I'd say it's a 4, but it's not
still
impossible
decent,
for
decent.
it to reach 5. Yeah.
So not an all-time great, but still very good.
Yeah, and I was hopeful going in because I like my mech games. But at first I was like, oh, maybe this isn't as good as I was hoping, kind of thing, because it was that learning curve to get over. And it's only in the last few play sessions where I'm like, oh no, actually, this is my jam. I really like this. This is good. So yeah.
Yeah, based on the progression you've just discussed as well, I think this is one of those games where you're not going to get a feel for it in its full glory until you've got several runs in, and you start cranking away at that. Like it's a ongoing progression, I assume, but you're carrying progression over from run to run. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. All the upgrades and stuff that you buy are, like permanent upgrades that you'll have access to going forward, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. A roguelite, as they are often referred to.
Yes.
Sweet. Okay. Well, that's big shots. Obviously, I was aware of this because we covered it, I think, an episode or two ago as one of our preview games or upcoming games. I have been playing, because apparently I live in the yesteryear. I have been playing Demeo, which you'll recall that. So there's a little story about this. You'll recall that I cancelled my Oculus or my Quest Plus subscription recently because the games that were coming to it did not seem that great. I've not really paid attention to them ever since the first couple of batches. And then they announced the game catalogue, and while Demeo was in it, the rest of it was just kind of things that I already own and have played, or things that I'm not so much interested in. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to save some money for a bit and come back to this when something gets announced that I want. So 2 things about this. Number 1, I was under the impression, based on all of the wording that was said on the Meta app, that, and I don't know if I should really be saying this in a public venue, but hopefully no one from Meta hears it. The way they word it is that when you stop subscribing, you lose access to the games that you were claiming every month.
Yeah, and that's the way Sony does it with their sort of service. Their subscription.
So you don't.
Yeah.
I was able, even outside of my subscription, to download games that I had already claimed, and the store can, whatever the flag, there's only one flag in the store, it's do I own it or do I not? Right. And as soon as I owned it based on the service giving it to me, that flag never went away. So
but that's cool.
I was able to play that. I was able to play things even though I was unsubbed. That was great. That was a really good discovery that I made. And that made me feel a little bit better about the Quest subscription overall, if I'm honest with you, which is why when I got to thinking, you know what? I've wanted to play Demeo for ages. You and I have talked about it constantly as something we should probably try at some point. It's in the game catalogue. Maybe I should just resub rather than spending 30 odd quid on it. Maybe I should. I'll play the demo because there's a free trial available, and then I'll resub if I like the demo, and that way I can play the whole thing for 8 quid or whatever the sub is for the month.
Yeah.
And I played the free demo. I really liked what I experienced, even though I didn't understand quite how to play it. I thought because I was playing it single player, I could only have one person go into the dungeon.
Right.
It turns out, no, you can just pick 4 characters and control them all.
Yeah.
So you can play single player with 4 characters, which is great. So for those who don't know what this is a simulated board game. in VR, and it's really a board game. This isn't one of those games where you are in the game. It's literally there is a board in front of you, like the old days of like when I was a teenager and someone had a Warhammer table that they'd meticulously set up, and I'd go around to their house and play on this finely crafted thing with miniatures. So you're picking up your miniatures, you're moving around the dungeon. It is Hero Quest, if we're going back to your my childhoods.
Yeah.
It is Hero Quest. Someone has changed the name, put some new skins on. And it is literally Hero Quest. You have cards that have your attacks and your powers and things. You spend your cards. Some of them recycle back into your hand. Others you're constantly drawing from the deck to try and resupply. You'll go into a level of the dungeon, somehow work your way through the dungeon, and I say somehow because good lord do they throw enemies at you at a blinding pace. It is really difficult. For anyone who's ever played the board games, the Dungeons and Dragons board games like Wrath of Ashardalon, for example, you'll know that these games are designed with there's like a 15% success rate. You could go in there with a very experienced party and you will complete the campaign 15% of the time. Oh, okay. Which means that when you do finally do it, it feels brilliant, but it is a grind getting to that win. This thing is exactly the same in that respect. It is
I've heard really, it's really hard. Unforgiving, yeah.
It is, yeah. Every single step you make and every action you take needs to be meticulously thought through, which is being a FromSoft fan. That's my kind of jam. I love being told that I'm terrible at something because I didn't put the effort in. So yeah, I really like it. It's got you got multiple character classes you can pick between when you're picking your characters for your party. I can't remember from the top of my head right now, but among my favourites are the Hunter, which is an archer, which has some really useful abilities. You've got like a 9x9 hail of arrows thing that comes down. That's a one-shot card, but when you get it, it's fun. Deals with massive amounts of creatures very simply. There's is it a paladin? It's like a paladin. This particular class has like armor on top of their health, and they have a card in their hand that says regenerate all armor. So you could, in theory, spend one of these every turn. And this guy's invaluable on my party, Tim, let me tell you. Every turn, you can just regenerate that armor. Now, obviously, if you're getting overpowered, you've got 17 creatures all doing 1 point of damage to you, you're dead. There's no getting around it. You're a dead person.
Yeah.
But having that regenerative armor is very useful. The magic in it doesn't seem especially great so far. I've tried like the sorcerer and the warlock and the bard, and it's
too
not
much of a glass cannon, or
no. I don't know if there's a lot of cannon involved, to be honest with you. Definitely glass, just not a lot of cannon there. More like a glass potato gun. So I've been unimpressed with those classes so far.
Okay.
But things like the barbarian, who can just like pick things up and lob them and like throw a hook shot across the level and pull himself towards people and charge. Excellent fun. So yeah, there's some great character classes in there that all have their unique spins to utilize. And obviously, when you've got a maximum of 4 people in your party, you've got to choose that party carefully. Okay. So try and play off each other's strengths. The idea is you go into one level of dungeon, try and get as many of the kind of when you get into the dungeon, you can only see the things that are in your character's views at the time.
Right.
So you've got like sight cones or areas that you've already been to. Although I think even when you progress through those, they will go back into the fog of war. But the one thing you do get on the overmap is, I say the overmap, you always have an overmap because you're playing a board game, is like, you'll see the question marks around the places where the like points of interest are.
Yeah.
So the idea is one of those points of interest is the entrance to the next level of the dungeon. All the rest of them are either treasure chests or healing fountains or any other kind
useful,
of
good
point
things.
of interest. Yeah, good things. So you want to try and get as many of them without getting absolutely railroaded by what I consider to be unlimited monsters, because I have spent a lot of time on one of these dungeon levels. And the monsters just kept coming and coming and coming. And I refuse to believe that was what spawned in at the start of the game. So I'm convinced that there is a monster spawning system in this game that just is unending. Which is fine if that's the way the game wants to play it. But yeah, you try and get... So the idea is to try and make as much money as you can, get to the next level of dungeon. When you go through between levels, you've got a shop you can go to. And that's where they give you cards. Every character has their own pool of money. Buy whatever cards you want. You can sell cards you don't want to make money. Move on to the second level of the dungeon. Same again. get down to the third level. That's where the final boss is. You've got to kill the final boss to get through to the last treasure chest and win the campaign. I think there are 6 campaigns in total. I've finished the first one so far.
Okay.
I've played the second one several times and have not yet completed it.
Right.
But to be fair, it took me, I want to say, 4 attempts to beat the first campaign as well.
Right, okay.
Because it was well hard. And I got really fluky. I got really fluky with a card that makes you invincible for 3 turns, and I got like 6 of them in one run. And I was just like, right, we'll get to that last boss, and then everyone's invincible for 3 turns. And then the boss turns invincible as well, but I could at least clear the crowd around him, and then I could focus everyone on the boss, and I managed to win that one. But yeah, that was a lucky run. So yeah, I love this game. I think this is a brilliant use of the VR format in general. It's really, really, really fun and brings me back to a very, very safe space in my childhood when I just loved playing Hero Quest with my friends. I bet this is way more fun when you play with other people as well, although obviously you wouldn't have control of every member of the party.
Yeah, I've heard it's very good in multiplayer as well, though. I mean, I actually bought this on launch day. Like, it's one of the games that came out on launch of PSVR 2. I bought it. I still haven't played 1 minute of it. Mainly because I'm like, when I have a good 8 to 12 hours free, this will be a really good thing for me to play. And I've just never carved out that amount of time and dedicated to it. But I really want to at some point. So if you're up for trying it multiplayer at some point, we'll definitely have to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that the save system, at least in single player, I know they used to have some issues with the multiplayer save, but the save system is fantastic. Every turn auto saves. So you can literally just get as far as you want in a run and go, right, I'm out. I'll see you tomorrow. And come back and pick up. You couldn't
save mid-mission until recently, and I think that makes it a much more attractive multiplayer.
Oh, it's brilliant,
for me as well. So, definitely be up for that. I'd try and hold you to ransom by saying, if you play some big shots with me, then I'll play some Demeo with you. But I want to play Demeo too much that I'll forgo that anyway. So what's the situation there? Would I have to get through the first campaign for us both to play the second campaign, or could we dive in at the second campaign?
No, you can get into every campaign from the start.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
And I think there are extra ones you can buy, although don't quote me on that because obviously I'm still on campaign 2 of the 5 or 6 ones that come with the game, so not 100% sure about that. I will say, just as a final addendum, on the Quest version of this, there is hand tracking built into it.
Right.
So rather than using controls. Now, you remember what I just said about being precise with your movements? This is where hand tracking is. It feels fantastic, as most games with hand tracking do. And I'll talk about another one that I completely forgot I played just now. So hand tracking with the Quest it's always been a little bit finicky, but when it works, it feels so good. And in this one, this is only going to come across on video, but you are picking your models up by just grabbing, pinching, and then dropping them somewhere.
Yeah, nice, yeah.
Pick up, move, drop. That feels great, except when the hand tracking suddenly loses, the tracking actually falls out, and it drops it on a square that you didn't mean to, or you or inadvertently thought you meant to go one further than you actually did. That's a bit of a nightmare. But I will say picking up the dice and flicking it with my hands feels great. Much better than when you do it with a controller.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
And the other thing that you do with the hand tracking is that ordinarily you would flip your controller over to get your hand of cards to display. So with this, it's tracking your hand all the time, and you flip your hand over, pick a card out, play it by lobbing it at someone, and then flip your hand back. The one issue I've got with hand tracking that really infuriates me is not even the precision, what square am I going on thing. It's the fact that in order to navigate around this board, because obviously it doesn't expect you to walk around your room to get around the table, you can zoom in and out by fist, making fists and then putting them together or pulling them apart. Okay. That's your zoom in and out.
Yeah.
If you make one fist and then move it in any direction, you are moving the camera around the board.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
I don't know about you, but I have found out in playing this game how often I make fists without even meaning to, just when I'm waiting for the monsters to take their turns. So I am constantly just moving the board around, my head's going underneath the board. It is infuriating. So
the problem with hand tracking is tracking your hands.
It tracks my hands. Yeah.
Okay, right, fine.
So yeah, I've quite intently been playing this with controllers ever since I realised how it feels great when it works, but controllers are really the way to go. Yeah, and it's the same thing with. I'm not going to talk about this game because you already talked about it on a previous episode. But I started playing. Oh God, what's it called? The city building game that you played.
Oh, Little Cities Bigger.
Little Cities.
Or Little Cities. This is
on just Little
Quest,
Cities though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started playing that, and that also has hand tracking built in, and it's exactly the same problem where you feel like a god when you are just picking things and like pinching your fingers, and there's no controllers involved. It feels fantastic, but it's never, ever, ever precise enough. On a consistent basis. So yeah, hand tracking is not. I've not been sold on hand tracking in any game so far, but when it works, for the brief moments that it does work, it's fantastic. Anyway, that's Demeo.
From the sounds of it, that's one thing where the Apple Vision Pro definitely has a big. I mean, hey, for the price, it better do as well. But it definitely seems to have a leg up on the Quest in terms of hand tracking. Does sound like it's very good on that as well, from what I've heard.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, you have another game.
Yes. So I will talk about the game that is actually more current than Big Shots. I forgot, because I got to play something on the Quest, which is normally your domain, Kev, as well. But I'm treading on your feet and maybe doing so more in the future, but we'll come back.
Get off my land!
Either later in the show or in general. But I was at WASD over the weekend. I was there on Saturday, and I got a quick chance to play Arcade Paradise VR, which has just come out on Quest. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, this is the game where you are in charge of a laundrette and have a kind of, I believe, kind of secretive and hidden hideaway arcade out the back kind of thing of your laundrette. So the kind of conceit is that you have to kind of earn money and do stuff in the laundrette to unlock more arcades that you can then add to your arcade thing. This has been
we should add at this point that you were just about to say it. This has been a flat screen game previously for the last couple of years.
Yeah. So it was available on flat screen. This is the VR version that's come out, and they've added VR controls to a lot of the interactions and stuff in the environment. But they've also added, I believe, about half a dozen or so arcade cabinets to the selection of our cabinets as well, and then also given like a bit of VR interaction with what you're doing. But you're mainly just kind of using the sticks to control the previous games that were there. As I said, the laundrette's got more interaction, so you're actually like physically picking up the laundry out of the washing machine and put it into the baskets and stuff like that, and that all feels good. And that feels like not just a natural progression of the thing into VR, but it also feels like when I played the flat screen game, that was a bit of the game that I really couldn't be bothered with. Like it just felt literally like busy work in a bit too much of a. This is something I should be doing more of in real life right now rather than playing the video game type of thing. But I don't know why, because it's even more like the one-to-one actions. But because of that, it feels there's a more kind of more gravitas to it. It kind of feels more immediate, and it feels more satisfying to be doing all those interactions as well. So I actually think it gave more weight to that. I only got to play I don't know, 10-20 minute preview, if that sort of thing. So I didn't get to play too much. But fortunately, because I'd played, myself and Coleman were there, and there was someone that played in between us, because I was actually trying to sort out a review code for you, is why I was got delayed from doing it, Kev. So just so you appreciate. But yeah, like so, that's the other reason I won't go into too much detail. One, because I can't, because I didn't play too much. And two, because hopefully we'll revisit this when you get to actually play it for review. Hopefully, maybe. So, yeah. But the one arcade cabinet I did get to try that was new for VR was a kind of light gun type one. So it had I think it was a pink pistol that was kind of in the front of the arcade cabinet. Similar to, like a load of like arcades like Time Crisis and a few other things. Although it most reminded me of Point Blank. I think did Point Blank, or was it maybe Lethal Enforcers that had like the pink and blue kind of 6-shooter pistol type things. I think it was not Point Blank. But anyway, But gameplay wise, it reminded me of Point Blank. And that was partly because it reminded me of one of the mini games in that. And you basically, it comes up with a grid of different things you need to shoot, but you only need to shoot like certain ones in the grid, and some of them have like just just shoot here, and they had a like bullet icon type thing. Some of them had like a little time icon, so you get a bit more time for shooting those ones as well. And to reload, you just shoot off screen. And it was quite funny. Like afterwards, he asked me, "Oh, did you learn how to reload?" Because I think because a lot of people were obviously asking how to do that. But because I'm old enough of a certain vintage that's how arcade machines used to work in my day, I naturally did that without asking. I didn't have to ask. That was how I knew. I like, yeah, shoot, I shoot on screen, bang, 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 carry on. And Amazing. Yeah, that felt really good, and I really liked it. And they did say that they thought, one of the people, the developers, or one of the publishing team, I think it was possibly, did say that they thought that was one of the better ones. I think that was why that one unlocks first out of the new VR machines. But that gave me a lot of hope that the rest of them will be pretty good as well, because I really enjoyed the time with that. I liked the other ones that I played with. The main one was like it's like half GTA, half Pac-Man kind of game, where you're kind of running away from the police and picking things up, and then when you get to a certain like pellet thing, like the tables turn and you can chase the police. And yeah, like that was okay, that was fine, but I think the actual, the ones actually made for VR were felt a bit better in VR, obviously, because they were made with that and designed with that in mind. There's also the kind of like basketball hoop type ones and a few other things that like kind of make sense in VR. I think there's a couple of light gun ones as well in there. But yeah, like I think this added enough to the base game and gave me a good hint that this is going to be, a cool thing that adds some good VR like features to the original base game, while adding some good games that work well with that as well. So I actually think this is a superior experience to what I tried in the flat screen game in multiple ways, and worked well in VR as well. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I think it's $14.99. It's out now on Quest. I'm hopeful that it is coming to PSVR 2 in the future. To be honest, I played the flat screen game and that kind of put me off the game. I think I may have played it at a previous event like WASD or somewhere else that I played it previously. And I was like, I was looking forward to it before I played the demo, and that put me off. Whereas this actually turned me back round to, this is a VR game I'm now interested in again, even though I wasn't that interested in the flat screen game, having played that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you think of the final game on this one as well, Kev.
Yeah, interesting. I never actually played the original version, so
no, okay.
But I did hear good things about it. I know Coleman absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to trying this one out in VR at some point.
Yeah.
So I have one more thing that I just want to quickly touch on my side of things, which
Second
is
bit of meat in our Big Mac.
Indeed, not a
other burgers
game
are
per se. This may in fact be the gherkin. I don't know. Can't even define if that's a good or a bad thing. So
sure. I like gherkins.
Several weeks ago, Xbox and Meta said, "Hey, we are going to release Xbox Game Pass as an app in a beta form." To be clear, This is beta; it's not a full release. On the Quest store, so you can download the Xbox Game Pass app. You can take your existing Xbox controller, sync it up to your Quest headset. No additional faff required there. You just hold the sync button and then pick it on the Quest thing, and suddenly your controller works with the headset.
Ooh.
And then you can go into Game Pass, and it's the full streaming service. You just go onto Xbox Cloud as you normally would do and play your games. And there was some. I think they sent around some review units for this over in the States. I don't know if they did so in the UK so much. But yeah, people came back and said, like, yeah, it's a beta, but it's working. And after many, many weeks of just completely forgetting, frankly, that it was even an option for me, because it never really occurred to me, I've got an Xbox and I've got a PC with Xbox Game Pass available on it. Like, it never occurred to me I should try playing Xbox games in my headset. But I was sat there one night and I thought, you know what I fancy playing right now is Forza Horizon 5.
Okay.
And wouldn't it be good if I had like a cinema screen to play it on? But I don't. I have my Xbox and my PlayStation. Like this is my office where I'm sat right now. It has my PC. It used to have my consoles in, but I kind of got sick of sitting in an office chair to play consoles. Like one of the nicest things about consoles is you can sit on a sofa with them. I didn't even want to do a sofa. I wanted to go back to my childhood and lay in my bed. So I took my consoles upstairs to my bedroom. And when my wife's not there, I game a lot on my consoles. So yeah, I was like, but the thing is, because of restrictions, not just my wife saying "Don't spend money, you idiot," but also just due to the size of the wall that I have between some doors. We've currently got. I could fit a bigger TV in there if I wanted, if I'm completely honest. But again, wife's and telling me no.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've currently got a 40-inch TV, which a 42-inch TV, one of the two. And it's fine. It does the job. It's 1080p. It's nothing special, nothing to shout out. We got it for 3 years ago because my wife won it in a raffle.
Oh, nice.
which was great. So that's hung up on the wall. And I was just like, you know what? I do like playing games up here, but wouldn't it be nice if I had a big screen? So I put the headset on and I synced up the controller. No issues whatsoever. That happened almost instantly. Got into the app. It then crashed. And then I restarted it and everything worked fine. Beta test. Beta application. So I got in there. Now, this is going to sound... I'm just going to come off with a bunch of things that sound bad to start with, but trust me, it gets better.
Right, okay, yep.
So the next thing that happens is I have to log into my Microsoft account. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a password manager.
Yes.
Now, password manager's not got a great track record at this stage of being available in the Meta Quest store.
Right, okay.
So I have to use the mixed reality thing, like double tap my headset and then get my phone out and be like, right, I need to open up the vault. Where's Microsoft? Yeah. Oh, of course I set a 46-character password for my Microsoft account because I wanted it to be extra special. All right, let's get this in focus somewhere. Okay, and let's start typing this in. I don't have a keyboard. I've got to do this with my sodding VR controller pointing at a virtual keyboard. Okay. And let's hope I get everything right, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
Because one mistake on this, and I've got to type in another 40-odd characters. I don't think it is actually 40 characters. I think it's like 20 or something. But still, it's an absurd number of characters for a password, which is great in terms of security, naff in terms of trying to type it into a new system I've never had to type it into before. Lo and behold, it just hung. It was like, I've accepted it, and now I'm just going to give you an infinite loading wheel. And I went, for Christ's sake. And I sat there for about 3 minutes watching this loading wheel. I went, I'm going to have to type all this in again, aren't I? So I quit out of the application, went back in. Of course, I wasn't logged in. It didn't trigger the flag. So I was like, okay, fine. Let's go through that again. Mixed reality back on. Right, I'm even going to lift my headset up a little bit to get some actual focus on this stupid thing. All right, let's type this password in. Finally got logged in. Happy days. And I made sure to check the box, leave me logged in. I'll have you know.
Yeah.
So that's done. I get into the cloud and it just gives me the full Xbox Game Pass screen of which games you want to play now. And of course, it's cloud synced. It's synced up all of my saves, all my most recently played games from console and PC and anything I've ever done in the cloud. I'm currently, because everyone I think is in the same boat at the moment, I'm currently playing through a new Fallout 4 save. So you know what? Let's boot that up and see what that's like. And for funsies, let's put it in the biggest screen size they've got. Oh boy, this was about as close to being an actual VR game as I could be in without it actually being like three-dimensional VR.
Yeah.
This thing was a screen that took up my entire peripheral vision up and down. Yeah. I've never played a video game sat in front of an IMAX screen before, but that's what it feels like to me.
I've played a video game on a cinema screen, but not an IMAX.
I've not.
But yeah.
I've not. But this is what that must feel like. And what I will say is because the game is obviously not running on the native hardware, it's not designed for a VR game, it is limited to the 60 frames a second. So the left and right movement was not especially pleasant. So I quickly shrank the screen down for that one to, rather than extra large, I just went to large. so that I could actually see the edges of the screen, and then the motion sickness, what little there was.
Yeah, on the big screen mode on PSVR, I didn't go for the biggest one possible. I went slightly smaller.
I will say it did involve me doing this a lot. Like, what's my health at the moment? Look right, I have to bend my neck to look at my flicker. What else is going on? Lots of neck workout happening that I hadn't planned on. So yeah, that once I got the right screen size and I was playing along, because you're playing I guess I don't know what it's rendering at, probably 1080p if I were to guess, and it's being blown up to whatever scale that screen is. You could see the pixels. It was a little bit unfortunate that the quality, and obviously it's cloud streaming over Wi-Fi.
Right, yeah.
So it's never going to be the best visual quality, but I will say this: I really felt like I was playing that game in a new way. I really enjoyed it. That gave me a good instinct for what it would be like playing it on a massive TV rather than my, dismal 42 inch.
It's one of my problems with Microsoft buying Bethesda is I think we would have had Fallout 4 in VR as a proper port on PSVR 2 and possibly other headsets if it wasn't for Microsoft buying Bethesda, because Skyrim on PSVR 1 was amazing. Like, it was great.
I wouldn't
Not perfect,
go
but very good.
I read up on Fallout 4 VR reviews after I experienced this, and almost every review just says this is the laziest port I've ever come across.
Okay.
So that I quickly realised that this is probably not a maybe you're not missing out on much, mate.
Okay. But if they did a proper job of it, then it would be okay.
Yeah. I can't speak to. I've not actually played Fallout 4 VR. I've often thought about buying it because I do own Skyrim VR. That was fine. It wasn't a particularly effortful port, but I at least liked that the bow and arrow worked like a VR game.
Yeah.
So that was good. Anyway, regardless, Fallout 4, still playing through that game, and that was a really fun way to do it. And it proved that I could play a game cloud streaming over Game Pass on the headset, and it was great. Next thing I wanted to do was get that screen back up in size again and try a driving game. So that, because that's the way to test a VR headset, is getting a driving game.
Yeah.
Got in my Lamborghini in Horizon 5, felt brilliant. Even though it was 60 frames a second, I felt fantastic. I even put the camera down to the one that's like at the front of the car rather than in the cockpit. Yeah. I had a great time. And then I thought, you know what? I've never actually booted up Forza Motorsport, the latest one. Dan's talked wonderful things about it. I'm going to boot that one up and play the first part. Again, fantastic experience. I actually think I prefer playing those driving games in that VR headset more than I ever preferred playing them on the flat screen.
That's interesting.
Even though it's just a fake massive screen in front of me.
Yeah. I mean, because like Gran Turismo on PSVR 2 is a transformative experience. Like that,
and that's a true VR thing, though,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I've had fun just messing around in big screen mode. Like I'll often, if I'm if I'm playing a game that isn't like a full VR thing, and I know like want to stay in the same room as my missus, but I want to play a game while she's watching something, then I can just stick that on. I think I was playing RoboCop in that and stuff like that. And like it, as you say, it's not quite like playing a VR game, but it does add something to the experience. And I've got like, not showing off, but people on the video version of the podcast will be able to see this, that I've got quite a large TV already, basically. But I think it's 65 inches, so yeah, it's pretty big. But you can get an even bigger experience, but it's also just the fact that because you've got that lack of peripheral vision and no actual other distractions, you can concentrate even more on what's in front of you, sort of thing. And I think that adds to the experience in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So all I really have to say about that is that it works way better than I would have thought, and I can't speak higher about it than that. I've also never really played a lot on the cloud service, to be honest with you. Even though I've got Game Pass Ultimate, I've got access to it. I've never really fiddled with it because I've got PC and the Xbox. I always download things locally, so I've not really played with the cloud service that much. But I'll tell you what, I didn't play any games that require high reaction times. I guess racing games come close. Yeah, but it felt great. I did not feel any latency whatsoever in those games, and I'm playing on a headset over a Wi-Fi connection.
I mean, that's pretty good. I haven't had the best experience with it. That's because I've been playing on the Xbox One, which is in my bedroom, which doesn't have very good Wi-Fi. So hopefully that changes for me in the future. But yeah. Anyway, it's good to hear that's a good extra string in the bow of Quest, I think, to have that kind of hookup. And we'll talk about it later in the show, but there is a bit more going on between Xbox and Meta in the future. And hopefully that's something else that they can work out. And also, the one I'd really like to play in that form that I think would work well with the cloud streaming thing as well is Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think that would be really good in VR as well, or just in the big screen generally. But yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. You're right.
Yeah, especially it would be extra good to not have to download that game because it's freaking huge.
I think this is going to sound like true nerdy Kev now, but I think Game Pass has American Truck Simulator on there as well.
Ooh.
I do like me some Truck Simulator.
Come to something similar later in the show as well, Kev. Not to give out too
that's another one I'm a fan of, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah,
Tim, tell me about your experience with ForeVR Pool.
Yes, and this will be a kind of condensed by all the other layers above it, a condensed layer of bread at the bottom of our Big Mac. It's been squashed by the other ones because that is the meatier stuff that we had above it. But just to mention, I took your advice. I did play a bit of ForeVR Pool, ForeVR Pool. And we spoke about ForeVR Bowl when that was on sale. I picked that up when that was on sale for a ridiculous price. This wasn't quite as cheap, but I think it was on sale for sort of £8 or something like that. And
worth it in my opinion.
Yeah, for having you recommend it, I thought I'd pick it up. And just to say, I wholeheartedly agree with your recommendation. That is a fun little game. It's got that weird sort of control, as you said. You're not kind of like queuing properly, but it kind of works. I kind of like what they've done. I've only very quickly played it, but it had a very similar kind of overview menu system than ForeVR Bowl. There's obviously some commonalities between how they've set those up. And so I was like, oh yeah, this is just like ForeVR Bowl. But then once you get into the game, you can play 8-ball, you can play 9-ball. And yeah, it plays pretty well, I think. Like I was quite pleased that I won my first game of 9-ball. And then I think I lost my first game of normal 8-ball pool. But yeah, like it seems good. I am pleased with my purchase, especially for that price. I think it's back up to the full price of $17.99. And I'm not sure I'd necessarily discourage anyone from picking up from that price because I think it's fine at that price.
I think it depends how much you want to play pool in VR.
Yeah, I guess.
I haven't come across a better example of that yet. However, you're right. It's asking a lot for what it is. But how much do you want to play pool? And
how much you're going to get out of it. And I love pool, and I used to have a table in my flat, but especially with my nice big TV, I don't want it. I don't want one anymore in my lounge because it's a good way to break TVs and windows, as I discovered in my youth when I used to have my table at home in my old house. I think I broke the same window twice. So yeah, but yeah, it's really good. It's as I said, the controls are a little bit reductive, but I really enjoyed that for what it is. I think if it's ever on sale, definitely pick it up. But at that price, probably going to get enjoyable out. Is it multiplayer and is it cross-platform? Is my questions. That's something I'm not sure about. We might have
and I don't know.
Okay, so if we can we might have to play that multiplayer as well in our multiplayer.
That would be good. Yeah,
add this to the walkabout of sports we need to play together.
Yes, well, we've already played walkabout together, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we need to play more of that because I bought more courses recently as well. So
snap. Always buy the courses for that thing. So I my favorite things about this game are like it's easy to get around the table. Yeah. Just teleport to where you want to be. You press a trigger and it brings you into the cue ball.
Although I turned the teleporting off and I was fine just walking around as well.
That's fine. It just takes longer. Yeah. That's the only thing I didn't like about it. I just like getting down at the ball and getting on with my next shot.
Yeah, I just found that if I teleported, I could accidentally teleport afterwards, and then that took me even longer to get back than just walking around the table. So I just went with that.
Can't say I personally had that issue.
Yeah. I wish they had a hybrid though, where you could just teleport and walk, so that you could teleport and then
once
correct
you've
it a little bit.
Once you've held the button to get in on the cue ball, you are locked into that anyway until you choose not to. So that part is good. And then aiming the cue feels weird because you are putting one hand in front of your face to do it. I agree. But you can see where the cue, you can see down the cue, which is the really important thing when you're playing pool. You can move the cue into different areas of the ball to apply spin.
Yeah.
The physics, as far as I've been able to tell, seem pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah.
Like if you get down towards the bottom of the cue ball and follow through on the motion, that does give you a pretty reliable like screw back or a stun, depending on the shot you're playing. Like, it's not perfect, but it's as close to a good pool game as I've come across in VR. And I think for the price you paid, £8 or whatever, bang on, bang tidy.
Yeah, exactly. If it's under a tenner, definitely pick it up is the advice I go with that.
Yeah. Okay, we are running long with these games we've been talking about. So let's blast through this news. And I think we will have to consider not talking about upcoming games this time around, or at least highlighting some.
I've already highlighted some in case you hadn't seen, but yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to the news. YouTube now supports 8K 360 degrees and 180 degree 3D videos on the Quest 3. I have used the YouTube VR app several times. I used it quite a lot when I had COVID, the one and only time I had COVID.
Right.
And I locked myself in this very room for 10 days straight.
Get round
12 days it turned out being. I mean, look, I'm not going to get into a psychiatry session here, but I was not in a good place. About 5 days into that, like, I barely got hit by the disease at all. I had a runny nose for about 30 minutes one day, right? But I was still carrying it. I was testing positive all the time. I did not want to infect my two, at the time, very small children. Like, they were not even 2 years old yet. And like wife and, my wife's parents live with us as well. So, and they're, older people. So I did not want to go out and risk it. So I properly locked myself in this room and had food delivered to my door for like over a week straight. Anyway, I got proper cabin fever, and suddenly I realized, holy hell, I own a virtual reality headset in the form of a Quest 2 that I have not turned on in ages at that point. So I thought, right, I'm actually just going to get in that and feel like I'm in a bigger space than this stupid little office for a bit of time. And good Lord, it helped me. It helped me. Going into YouTube VR and just not walking around, but going into like the VR videos that people have made, like 180 degree or 360 degree videos of different cities around the world, and going on drives to places, skydiving, things like that. Like, I went through a whole cavalcade of this stuff, and it was absolutely life-saving for me psychologically. But that was about the only time I've ever used YouTube VR.
Right, okay.
I'm not sure what the purpose of it being 8K 360 is, because, well, 8K. Is there an 8K headset yet?
I don't think so. I think this is future-proofing things, but as I understand,
that would make sense.
I think I read something about this, and I don't necessarily understand all of it, but I think I think some of it is future-proofing, just giving a bit of headroom, but also there's some, like, if it's an 8K 360 video, that doesn't quite equate to a full 8K, basically. You know what I mean? Like, if it's 8K,
that would make sense.
It's something like 4K, essentially. I think
the pixel density would be very, very lower. So yes, you're right. That is true. I hadn't considered that. So that's, I mean, keep going up, get the numbers going up and up, then we're all happy, I think. So I will have a look into this maybe for the next episode and see what fun things are up on YouTube at the moment.
We have some more homework coming up for you as well. But then, this is also a reminder that there's still no YouTube or any other video support of any kind on PSVR 2, which I'm still annoyed about. So, yeah.
Well, to be fair, even the VR YouTube app on Quest is a bit lazy, to be honest. It's not exactly a YouTube VR. It is just YouTube. And if you watch VR videos, then it detects the fact that you have a VR headset.
Yeah. But that's better than we have on PSVR 2.
It is, yes. I must agree. You guys are, as per usual, being left behind unfairly. In other news, Meta has rebranded the Quest software platform to Meta Horizon OS. So, obviously, I read this story at a very surface level. My understanding is they are still going to make their own headsets, in theory.
No, in practice. They are definitely making their own headsets still, yeah.
Okay. However, they are now effectively selling the software part of the headsets, which is everything from the OS through to, which includes like hand tracking, the store, everything involved in that. That's all being sold off as a licensable piece of software, like any other licensable piece of software.
That includes the mixed reality, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, is also a feature of Arcade Paradise VR. You can actually put arcade machines in your real-world environment as well, which is
that's fun.
A little extra feature.
That is cool. And the mixed reality tech in the Quest is really good. So what this effectively means is that hardware manufacturers can now say, we want to make a VR headset, but we can't be asked developing our own operating system for it.
Yeah.
Now they can go and grab the Meta Horizon OS and just slap it into their own hardware, which is great. And several partnerships have already been announced. These come in the form of ASUS because, of course, like the Republic of Gamers need to be on board with everything that comes out. Lenovo are getting involved. Again, of course, Lenovo always have to do something. Xbox have been involved, which is what we referred to earlier. That's cool. That's actually that headset is it's basically a Quest 3, but is a specialized black one, and it's going to come with an Xbox gamepad in the box. So this isn't really a new headset. It's just we're promoting the fact that you can play Game Pass in the Quest.
Headset. I wonder if that's going to come without the I can't remember what I was going to call them Oculus controllers, but what the actual controllers that come with the Quest, like I don't know what.
You'll still get them. You will absolutely still get them.
That'll still be in the box as well?
I mean, it'll be inoperable without them. You can't control the virtual reality OS with an Xbox controller.
Right.
You can use your hands.
Wasn't sure. Course. I hadn't seen that confirmed either, but if that makes sense, then
you'll absolutely get the controllers. However, obviously, other hardware manufacturers are more than welcome to develop their own controllers.
That's true.
In doing this, which can have any number of things involved, and the headset, which can have any number of things involved. Now, the one person that seems to think this is a bad idea is the ex-chief technical officer of Meta, and of course, id Software, John Carmack, who has stated he does not think this is a good idea, mostly as other headsets will have to be priced at a higher price because Meta sells them at cost. In fact, Meta makes pretty significant losses on the headset in general.
Really?
I think I was reading another story recently that they've basically lost like $2 billion to the VR department over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think that haven't they? Well, I wasn't sure if that was Meta as a whole or the metaverse in total. Basically, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean that will be part of it. Absolutely, they invested a lot of money into something that did not pick up traction at all. So yes, you're right. That is a good thing to point out there. However, I'm going to say that I didn't get into John Carmack's full argument because when that guy goes on a rant, A, you need like several master's degrees to keep up, and B, more often than not, it's complaining about something that is very specific to a very subset of people.
Yeah.
Typically billionaires. Or millionaires. So I didn't read his full argument. What I will say is, based on the kind of summary I have read, I don't necessarily agree with his mindset here. I think like giving other headset manufacturers the ability to use that OS and build their own is a good thing. That opens up the market. All right, they're going to be more expensive. They can't compete on price, but what they can compete on is features. Hardware features. Yeah. We could get Quest headsets effectively that have OLED screens in them, like OLED panels. You could have better haptics in your controllers. You could do all sorts of random things with your controllers. People who like things to light up, I guarantee you the ASUS Republic of Gamers one's going to have flipping LEDs all over the place that you can't even see.
The one other point that I think he made as part of his argument, which I can kind of understand, is isn't this going to make it slightly more difficult to develop for as well, because you won't be able to know what the target hardware is that you're going for? I think that could be an issue possibly.
Yes, but in no way different to... So what he's arguing there is, look, what everyone does right now is effectively games console development. They have a fixed hardware target to hit, and
this will be more like PC.
This will be more like PC, where you've got a various number of specs. But as with everything, these developers are going to build games, and they're going to grab whatever headsets are the most popular at the time, and they're going to test heavily against those headsets, as they would with GPUs in a PC, and make sure it works.
I wonder if, this hasn't been announced yet, but I wonder if we'll also see other headset manufacturers pivot to using Meta Horizon OS. Like, could we see Pico possibly putting out a headset that uses their tech and Meta's software?
It depends. I think every one of these companies is going to have to look at the pricing of the license, whatever that ends up being, and what they're currently spending, and decide which way the wind's going to blow on that. I don't know how well Pico are doing, but if they're doing quite well in terms of profit margins, there's no reason for them to adopt Horizon OS.
Apparently, they've really sort of constricted their company and kind of scaled things back and are just doing things on a software basis. And anyway, so be interesting.
I mean, I can tell you that there's almost certainly no way Valve is going to replace Steam VR.
Yeah, that's true.
That's their thing. They're going to keep using that.
Yeah, Valve don't play nicely with others in that regard necessarily.
Generally not, no. And why do they need to?
No,
they're not sure on money.
They don't need to. Yeah.
But like all these other like Lenovo and Asus coming in, and other manufacturers make it. HTC may even take them up on this. Like they've been building headsets for a while. Maybe they'll develop a headset alongside this. I think there's a good buffer, like a good range of headsets that could come out of this that all share the same operating system, so you always know what you're getting from a software side of things.
Yeah,
the store, like everything will be cross compatible. You can upgrade from one headset to another, and all your games will work. TM.
Yes, and I think that means that Meta can concentrate on what they need to do to bring more people into the mass market, i.e. racing to the bottom in terms of price, but still, delivering a good experience like they have with Quest 3, but getting an decreasing price in that headset while leaving other manufacturers to share the room. They didn't do very well with the Quest Pro, and I think this is them possibly going another approach. By the way, we won't go into this in detail, but there's a possibility that I could pick up a Quest Pro for less price than I can get a Quest 3, and I'm thinking about doing it, but I'm just wondering if anyone of our listeners or yourself has any feedback on that, because from what I've read up, the Quest 3 doesn't have a significant advantage over the Quest Pro in terms of what it looks like and how things play, but I don't know if there's any particular disadvantage. It does seem like you get rechargeable controllers that you can't use batteries with, which is a sort of plus and negative at the same time.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't see a particular reason why I shouldn't go with that.
So I'm not going to ask you any further questions about how you are achieving this. However, I will say that the general rule of thumb is if you can get a Quest Pro and it's not going to hurt your wallet in any way that matters to you, more so than a Quest 3 would do.
Yes.
Then the Quest Pro is a perfectly viable way forward. In fact, it has a generally better, slightly better hardware set.
Yeah.
Quest 3 is what you get because why would you ever spend more than twice the amount of money on a Quest Pro if you don't have to?
Yes.
So if you can get a Pro for cheaper, you're getting technically better hardware for less money.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to ask you how that's happening.
It's nothing dodgy. It hasn't fallen off the back of a lorry or anything.
It sounds very lorry backed to me, mate. But let's move along.
We'll say that for after the show.
God, this sounds like when someone buys a car off a police auction. This used to belong to a drug dealer. They needed to get rid of it and make some money back to pay off debts.
Yes, that's what it is.
Anyway.
I'm buying a banged up drug dealer's Quest Pro.
That's why he got caught. Spent too long in the metaverse.
Yep.
Cops came in and like, what is he doing? And caught him in a very compromised position.
Winners don't use Quest Pro.
Anyway. Right, let's move along.
Yeah, moving along because we're already going too long. I just want to give a couple of updates. So updates to games, and these have all made a bit of a difference to multiple games. I'll try and get through this very quickly. Light Brigade, which I haven't bought, but is a very well spoken about roguelike
I'm in the same
shooter.
boat. I looked at this the other day.
Yeah.
When this update got unveiled the other day, and they were talking about the Shadow Hunter, and they made it sound awesome, and I was suddenly like, I've seen this game in the store. I've never really given it a second look, but I'm tempted.
I've heard very good things. It came out on launch on PSVR 2, and I was tempted then. The only reason I didn't pick it up when it was on sale last month is because I still have Tales from the Galaxy's Edge, Star Wars, and Hubris to play. And Genotype came out, and I really like the look of that as well. But I haven't picked up Genotype or the Light Brigade just because I want to get through either one of those two games I just mentioned, or Vertigo 2. I need to get through one of them at least before I buy another first-person shooter for my headset, basically. So that's
we should say this is a run-based roguelite shooter based in like an alternate World War I sort of setting, I want to say.
Yeah. It's got kind of World War I kind of guns and stuff. But they've
apparently
added another
the guns
class to this.
Brilliant.
Yeah, apparently the whole thing feels good. The haptics feel great as well, apparently, on PSVR 2. But it was a free update, added the Shadow Hunter class, which is archery focused with throwing knives. I've seen video of the launch stuff of this. It looked really good. Add a new world, which is the Sunless Keep, and that's available on all platforms now. Just wanted to give that a shout out because even though I haven't played it myself, I have heard very good things. I will pick it up one day, I promise. But yeah, sounds good. A game that we mentioned previously, Rainbow Reactive Fusion, a game I really liked. It had a couple of issues at launch. One of those was that it wasn't that clear graphics-wise. They added a free patch that came out, and we spoke about this on the show. I think it came out on the 4th of April in the end. But yeah, I just wanted to say I'd revisited it, got back to the final level in the game. Haven't quite completed that yet, but generally, yeah, like it looks much more graphically impressive since the free patch. It says that it's quadrupled all texture sizes of the game and has added 1.3 times super sampling to reduce aliasing. This translates to it looking clearer and more shiny.
Clarity and more shiny. I love that description.
Clarity and more shiny. But yeah, it looks really nice. Like all the surface details and stuff, like all the metal looks metallic and shiny and kind of got a sheen to it and stuff as well. That really adds to the. It doesn't necessarily add much to the gameplay, but it does add to the game. I still got a couple of issues with it. It goes black when you're going up and down in the lift for some reason at one point in the lift and not at others, which is really weird. And for some reason, when you're sitting down playing this game, you can't go up and down stairs, and there's stairs in the environment that you're walking around. But it's overall, it's a really good fun match 3 type style game with a kind of actual physical throwing of these colored balls into the grid and stuff. I really liked it. It's really good fun. It looks even better now, so it's a easier recommendation. So yeah, that's available, and it was, as I said, a free patch rather than a particular update. But yeah, that's worth checking out. Toys Trains VR is another one that I reviewed previously. I should point out that I had a review code for Rainbow Reactive Fusion and Toys Trains VR, so take that with a pinch of salt if you need to. But Toys Trains VR is available for PSVR 2, Quest, and Steam. It added an Infinite Loop update, again a free update. It added a sandbox mode and a challenge mode. And this was something that the game really needed. My only criticism of the game, it's a very cozy sit-down puzzle game. Really enjoyed it, but it didn't have a lot of replay value once you played through the story. So them adding a sandbox and a challenge mode takes away my concerns and criticisms of it. I haven't been back to actually play it yet. I will get back to it at some point. I've just been busy with Rainbow Reactive Fusion and big shots in my VR playing time this week. But yeah, as I said, that takes away the criticisms that I had of it before. As long as they are, decent, then I think that's a really good addition to the game and makes it, again, an easier recommendation, basically. So yeah, definitely worth checking out, especially if you've already bought the game. And if you haven't, it gives you another reason to do so, basically. Galaxy Kart is one that's been updated for a while, but I only just got back to, and I played a bit after our previous show, so I haven't actually played it for a week or so. But yeah, I've played it since the last time that we did. I also mentioned because it's currently on sale on PSVR 2 for £11.19 at the moment. It is a Mario Kart style game. It was pretty good at launch. I kind of enjoyed it anyway, but it did have some technical problems and lacked a little bit in terms of depth of number of tracks and stuff like that. But the developer has been really hard at work, adding a load of things, adding a load of polish. It's now got 90 hertz native, which makes it look a lot better than it did at launch. And they've added a load of new tracks. There's 18 tracks in total. There were so many, I haven't even tried them all yet, but I went in and played like a few of them, and I quite like the additions that they've made. They're also now divided up into 6 different tournaments, whereas before it was just kind of, I think 4 lots of 3 tracks or something. But anyway, it's now like divided a bit more like you would see a Mario Kart, where you can go through a different tournament and have like the 4 races that add up to the cup. And there's some additional characters as well. I can't remember how many were there originally, but there's now 9 characters in the game as well. So yeah, I just wanted to praise the developer for sticking with that. Oh, and they've also added wheel support, which is no good to me, but that might be of use to some people. But yeah, it was a generally fine game before, but now with all these additions and stuff, it's really upped its game and is really kind of it's kind of automatically the default kart racing game on PSVR 2, because it is the only kart racing game on PSVR 2. But we don't have many racing games aside from Gran Turismo, so it's a welcome addition. And for the £11.19 it's currently on sale for, I would say it's well worth it.
Cool.
So
So we've got some upcoming games that are releasing this week that are of note. Of course, we've already discussed Arcade Paradise VR.
Yep.
You have done a preview of that, and fingers crossed I'll be having a review at some point in the near future. There is also a game called Astra, which is a mixed reality cosmos exploration. I have seen this on the Quest store.
Yeah,
I really, really want to try this. I just haven't got around to buying it yet, but I fully intend to.
I watched a video of it today. I can't remember who the creator was, but she was really excited about it, and it looked really good. I'd give her a shout out if I could remember it. But oh no, Disco VR, that's who it was. Yes. So yeah, shout out to her. But it literally turns your room into a spaceship, and it actually says that like it actually works a bit better in a smaller room, so it might be perfect for your office as well, Kev. So yeah,
maybe.
Do recommend trying that out.
I'm really looking forward to it. It looks cool. Anything to do with just like moseying around space and getting me into a meditative state, I'm happy to do. And it looks like there's some puzzle elements in it of some sort as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much game is in there, but it definitely looks just a fun, interesting mixed reality thing that's a bit beyond what we've seen before in mixed reality.
There was a game, not to sidetrack too much, but there was a game is a very kind term, more of an interactive experience called Spheres.
Okay.
Several years back, which was you basically sailed around in space and you could look around. And it was more of a music thing, but it was designed as a way. It's just like this combination of sailing around in space and through the cosmos, with a bunch of like really, really awesome, like thematically correct classical tracks, like orchestra music in the background.
I was going to say a bunch of really awesome drugs.
I mean, that's what it felt like. It was brilliant. Yeah, I really enjoyed that back then. I think it was on the Oculus store or something. But yeah, that was cool. And this, I don't think this is exactly the same kind of thing, but it stroked the same interest that I had in that one. Contractors Showdown, which is a battle royale game, is coming out on Quest this week.
This looks like one that, like, I know you're not exactly into the battle royale thing, but it looks...
Not exactly would be a generous statement. Not at all is actually where I would land.
No, but I know how much you like Battlefield. And I think this might be the kind of meeting point of the two a little bit. It's getting a lot of buzz, a lot of people talking about it in high regard, and it's only £15. So I think...
Listen, I actually... I don't mind battle royale games.
Yes.
I played a lot of PUBG when it first came out.
Yeah.
But that... I should say that's actually the last... Well, maybe I played Apex Legends a bit, but that's it. Yeah. I quickly learned that I'm bad at these games, as I am with all PvP shooters, and I don't enjoy games that I'm bad at, necessarily. Right. So
fair enough.
That's where I stand on it. And in VR, there was a Battle Royale game that came out on the Quest 2 several years back, the name of which I'm forget, maybe it was Population 1.
Yes, that's the free-to-play one on Quest, no?
I was awful at it. And I'm not just talking about bad in the way I'm normally bad at PvP shooters. I mean, I could not wrap my head around how to play a PvP shooter in a VR headset. Like, I am meticulous and take my time, and I've got slaughtered on a constant basis. Everyone else is playing flipping Quake 3 level, and I was there going like, I'm just going to point my gun. Oh, no, I'm dead. So yeah, I've never enjoyed a battle royale or any PvP game.
But one I wanted to point out, just because it's getting a lot of buzz, I also should point out that the games we were mentioning then, and the next 3 games, which I'll save you from going through, but they all came out on the 25th of April. 25th of April was a big day for VR. I don't know why so many games were released on that day, but there was like half a dozen or more new games on Quest that day. Arcade Paradise being one of them. The other ones, Nope Challenge, Retropolis 2, Never Say Goodbye, which I'm really looking forward to. It's coming out on PSVR 2 next month. And Star Tender's Intergalactic Bartending on PC VR as well. But yeah, a lot of games that day. What I want to set you as homework, Kev, because there's apparently a demo out now. It's coming out on the 30th of April, is Whitewater VR Extreme Kayaking Adventure. I really like the look of that. I want a slightly more adventurous kayaking game, and this looks like it's scratching that itch, basically. So I want you to tell me if it's worth it. It's on PC VR, so
that's a Steam demo, I assume. Okay,
I believe
I'll have a look
so.
into that.
Yeah. So have a look.
Cool. Okay, so moving on to things that got announced this week, and let's be honest, there's only a couple of these I really care about.
Sorry, I was going to say 2 more things just to mention on the list of things coming up. Both on the 16th of May. Ultimate Swing Golf, which is interesting because it's developed by Clap Hands, i.e. the people that previously made Everybody's Golf. And it's interesting because it's coming to Quest first and foremost. No sign of whether it's coming to PSVR 2 yet. This is a big loss for Sony. Is out on the 16th of May at $22.99. Looks quite good fun.
Interesting.
Good.
I did not know the developer pedigree behind that. So
yeah. So that's what makes that one interesting as well. Yeah. Exactly. And also, Stride's Fate is already out on Quest and has recently had the Concrete Jungle DLC coming out, but has been announced for the 16th of May. This is the one that is a sequel to Stride, a kind of 1.5 sequel, from what I understand a little bit.
More of a restart, but not quite.
Yeah. But it looks interesting. It's got a Mirror's Edge with gun combat type sort of appeal to it, and that definitely appeals to me. The price hasn't been announced on PSVR 2, but it is $22.99 on Quest, so I'm hoping it's a similar price on PSVR 2, in which case I will definitely be picking this up.
This is the game where you jump through different time periods, right?
No, I think it's just more like Mirror's Edge, just jumping from rooftop to rooftop type thing.
I'm thinking of something completely different then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, games that got announced this week, and this is the one we really need to talk about.
Yes.
Alien Rogue Incursion has been announced by, I want to say, Servios have announced this.
Yes.
So already we're happy that Servios is behind it. They generally put out like pretty decent stuff. So,
well, we've known that they've been working on an Alien game for some time. The new information here is that we have the name, which is Alien Rogue Incursion, which I don't entirely know what that refers to.
Well, the rogue is because it's a roguelike.
You reckon?
They've explained what it is.
Okay.
This is effectively the way this has been described that I've read.
Yeah.
Which may or may not be completely accurate. So take this with a grain of salt. But what I have read is that this is intended as effectively, remember Alien Isolation?
Yes,
the game that came out a few years back. It is effectively the same thing, like the same concept. You are a person with an alien on the ship and you are trying to survive.
Right, yeah.
However, this is run-based, so a lot shorter, not a full campaign game, just a lot, you're doing run-based stuff, and your job is to get out and escape the alien.
Because they describe it on their website as a brand new single-player action horror VR game, features an original story that fully surrounds players within the terrors of the Alien universe.
Yeah, so it is a completely...
Designed by Alien fans for Alien.
Yeah, so it is a completely new game. It's not just they've taken Isolation, shrunk it down a bit, and turned it into a run-based mode. It is a completely new game, but they have kind of based it off of the concept, if the central concept of Alien Isolation, which is you versus the alien, and the alien's going to win unless you hide really well.
Yeah, but if I remember, did Alien Isolation, did you have guns in that game?
If you did, I don't remember it being the case, but I never completed it.
The bit of the game I played, I never got to a gun, because you can clearly see like what looks like silhouette of a soldier in the kind of cover art type thing, and he's clearly holding a gun. So, and they use the beat motion sensor thing in the little trailer video as well. So,
well, Isolation's main shtick was we want to make sure that you are terrified of this thing because you can't win. So if they unlocked weapons later in the game, that would have gone back on. Like, again, I never played more than, I want to say, 3 or 4 hours of it, but I never came across any weapons. So,
and I also played the original Alien Isolation in VR on one of those twisty, turny chair things.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, that chair was pretty rubbish, but the experience is quite cool. But yeah,
I will say, just while we're on that subject, I've loved playing when I play VR games in this office and I'm playing sat down. I love being able to spin around in this chair in a 360 degree motion. It's fantastic. For playing Lone Echo 2, that was brilliant.
That's good.
Right, so Alien Rogue Incursion. Yes, sorry.
I was just going to say, the next game I was going to talk about that was kind of, it's one that's already known about because, again, it's already on Quest, but it's been announced for PSVR 2, and I was quite happy. It's a game called Compound. It's a roguelite FPS. We're using the word roguelite a lot this week. If that doesn't get into the episode title, we've done something wrong. Isn't it? Yeah. But it's an FPS, but it's got kind of retro style graphics, almost like the kind of original Doom era type kind of graphics. But with a kind of neonish kind of vibe to it, sort of thing. But yeah, like I really like the look of this one. I'm looking forward to it. It doesn't have a date yet, but it seems to be coming soon. I think I heard somewhere that it might be May, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case, basically. But yeah, I like the look of this one. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's one you'd enjoy, Kev, as well. So it might be worth you looking up on Quest as well.
I'm just trying to remember which game it is. I would have almost certainly seen it in the store before.
Yes, I think so. While you're having a quick look, I will move on. Crazy Kung Fu has been announced for PSVR 2 since we were last here as well. It's already on Quest for $10.99, on sale for $7.99. It looks like a kind of a bit of a kung fu fighting game mixed with a kind of workout type thing. I'm not exactly sure how it works. I'm intrigued to see how it comes across and what price it will be when it does. But yeah, if it's exercise and kung fu, I might be interested. But yeah, I think there's other kung fu games that are on Quest already that I'd rather came across. I think it's Dragon Kung Fu, the one I really like the look of on Quest. But we'll see. I'll wait to see. The other one I think you'll be really interested in, Kev, and there's a free demo out now on Steam, a game called Cold VR, which is unashamedly very much influenced and is basically inverse super hot VR.
So, I've heard about this.
Yes. So literally, like all the enemies are blue rather than red because it's cold.
Yes.
And instead of
time moves when you stop.
When you move, time moves when you are stopped.
So you've got to keep moving. Yes. I have heard of this. You are 100% right. This has definitely been in my field of view.
Yeah. So it's on PC VR for now. As I said, there's a Steam demo of it. But it is already been announced that it will eventually come to PSVR 2 at some point, and Quest and flat screen as well. So it will be available to play wherever you like to play super hot style games. I like the fact that it's kind of wearing its heart on its sleeve and telling you exactly what this is. But yeah, I'm also really looking forward to it as well. It looks really good, looks really fun. Definitely one to look out for.
I'm just watching a video of someone play it. And it's just absolute. It looks like chaos because the guy is just moving constantly, and shooting everything, but nothing else is moving. It's like shooting shit like fish in a barrel. It's like
as long as you keep moving, you're all right. I like that. I like the look of it. It looks like a fun game. So yeah, I'll be curious to see what you think of the demo.
Could be a good workout game, that one.
Yes, as well. Yeah. I mean, the original Super Hot was as well. And I miss having Super Hot in VR because it was a staple game as well. It's not available on PSVR 2, so that gives it extra value as well to me on PSVR 2. So yeah,
that platform, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons why I'm thinking of buying a Quest, Kev. Although I have heard a bit of scuttlebutt behind the scenes, can't exactly tell you all the details that I've heard, and haven't all been told all the details myself. But Sony are doing some things on the back end that make some devs tell me, just hold off, just be patient. Sony are not giving up on VR. There are signs of life yet. Just wait until you see what's coming. So,
be that as it may, you and I both know that Super Hot VR is like in the top 3 reasons to experience a VR headset.
Yeah, so, which is crazy that it hasn't come across. But by the sounds of it, people that made their VR game may have left to go make Toy Trains VR, so that might be why, basically.
Mayhaps, yeah.
So mayhaps. Other piece of homework that I want to give you at the same time is another free demo that's out on Steam.
I feel like I'm back in school this week.
Yes, it's a game called Subside. I really hope this is coming to other things as well. I heard somewhere that it is, but I haven't seen any official confirmation of that fact. But it's a ultra realistic looking swimming game, basically. Underwater, like really even beyond kayak VR, looks super realistic, basically. And like the first time you see it, you will be forgiven for thinking it's a video rather than a VR game. Like that style of realism, basically. And so, yeah, again, I just want to put this under your nose, Kev, make you aware of it, get you to check it out for me while I still can't do that for myself yet. And let me know what you think.
The first time I see it, I'm wondering if they've given the Subnautica developers their share. Good Lord, that looks a lot like Subnautica, but it does look very pretty.
Yes, it does look very pretty indeed. So yeah. And 2 other games that I put on here. I believe there will be some of our listeners and viewers that want to see this, but this is mainly for you, Kev. Mainly for you. Mud Runner VR, as you said about the Euro truck simulator type thumb, has been announced that it's coming to Quest. I did get a press release on this, but we don't really have time to add too many other details. So I'll just say we don't know when it's coming, but it is coming at some point on Quest. I'm hoping this is one that will also come to other platforms in the future as well, because this is one that I could see being a lot of fun. It's always a game that I've almost engaged with, but never actually played. But I think in VR it would be even better, basically. No.
So Mud Runner came out, I want to say the order was Snow Runner first, and then Mud Runner.
Right, yeah.
They are both. If you are a nerd for 4x4 off-road driving where every single movement of the car requires absolute precision and care and forward thinking, then this is your type of game. I love these games. So the fact that this is going to be playable in VR, I mean, this more than like a Forza or a Gran Turismo would be the thing that makes me want to buy a steering wheel.
That is good to hear.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm really looking forward to this.
So yeah. That should be good. But also one I think you might like as well, given that you're a little bit disappointed with Lawnmower Simulator, or was that what it was?
Yeah, Lawnmower Simulator VR. Yeah.
So you're a bit disappointed in that. So this might be one to cheer you up again. It has been announced that Dig VR is on the way, and it's basically a JCB simulator, basically. I don't know if JCB translates outside of the UK. Is that but it's diggers, big diggers.
Yeah,
in VR,
construction equipment. So yeah, that's we'll wait and see. As per usual, I didn't think I'd be interested in that stupid looking blacksmith game, but then I played the demo of it and was just like, you know what? I can't wait for this game to come out now. So there you go. Give me a mundane simulator any day of the week, as long as it doesn't make me feel physically ill.
Yeah, that helps.
That's all I'm asking for. So yeah, excellent stuff. So that's all been announced. We don't know when those games are coming out. For the most part, they're all to be determined, with the exception of Alien, which they've said holiday this year.
Yeah, rather than
we'll see if that makes it or not. Fingers crossed. I mean, if they can. Last year, I was blown away by the very flawed gem that was Assassin's Creed Nexus. I would love to have another really good VR experience from a franchise that I love.
Yeah, I think the franchise makes sense in VR. I also trust the developer as well. Servius have really had a pretty good,
pretty stellar record, to be fair.
Yeah, they've done. I don't think I've played a VR game of theirs that I disliked.
No, I don't want to say they've ever released an absolute banger. At least not to the best of my recollection. However, they have been very consistently good.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is all we got time for this week. We have gone over again quite significantly, but that's because Tim and I we love having a chat. That's the way it goes.
It's nice to have a catch up.
It is. So we will catch everyone next time. I have been Kev.
I virtually been Tim.
And we will see you next time around.
Quite welcome for the podcasting goodness that you just heard. Why not roll on over to BigRedBarrel.com for more podcasts, news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarrel.com.
People reporting on this are being a bit disingenuous by reporting on it and not commenting on the fact that the person that is saying it has been wrong twice before in the recent history about the same device.